Survivor Series this past year for WWE, which was about a week ago. And I'm going to start by saying that I hadn't... Yeah. Well, I'm glad you stuck around for the review, definitely. So, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It'll be on the website very soon. So, definitely want to take this time to talk about about my experience watching Survivor Series and the fan reactions to it. Like I've said, I haven't actually watched that much wrestling in recent times. Just because the fan negativity online has just been getting to me. And not just the fan negativity, but the fan hypocrisy, in my estimation. And I think that really came to show with this Survivor Series show. Now, it really started on, for those that are aware of what all happened here, it really all started with the go-home edition of Monday Night Raw right before the Monday before Survivor Series, in which during that show, in a whole promo scrum between all of the women of Raw and the women of SmackDown, Nia Jax got a pretty hard shot in on Becky Lynch. Ended up breaking her nose, breaking a part of her face, and giving her a concussion. And it was because that led to Becky was declared medically unable to take part in her scheduled Survivor Series champion versus champion match with Ronda Rousey. A couple of things that resulted in that. Well, that, of course, resulted in Becky having to change she had to pick a replacement for her match, and she ended up choosing Charlotte Flair. Of course, the person she took the SmackDown Women's Championship from. This all led to a couple of things happening at Survivor Series. First was when Nia Jax came out as part of the Raw team for the Women's Survivor Series match of the night, she got booed heavily. And this was go-home heat. This was not true heel heat. This was the proverbial X-Pac heat. Everyone just turned on her. She's now been called one of the most irresponsible and dangerous wrestlers on the women's roster for what she did to Becky. The other thing that happened was the finish of the Ronda Rousey-Charlotte match. And I don't know if they essentially took the planned finish for if it had still been Becky or if they did something else entirely different. But what happened was the match ended with Charlotte just completely losing it. She got herself disqualified, first by going after Ronda with a kendo stick, Singapore cane, whichever you wish to call it. Basically just was waylaying on her with that. Then switched to a steel chair, in which he not only was bashing her with it, but basically supposedly injured her neck by putting her inside the chair and stomping on it. You probably all know that type of moves. But yeah, definitely. And thanks for your time Scatterbrain Pete. Always great to have you on here. But what was again here is, and what happened was, so Charlotte goes completely nuts, and if this was an attempt to try and turn Charlotte heel, it worked about as well as when they tried to turn Becky heel, because the crowd just went nuts for it. That they gave her probably the biggest pop she's received since Becky first turned on her back at SummerSlam. And they completely turned on Ronda. I'll get to this, they just booed her heavily. I think the "You Deserve It" chant was going on as well. And this was in Los Angeles, where I could be mistaken, but I don't think Los Angeles is known for having a very smarky crowd more often than not. But in the Survivor Series, there probably a number of people may have traveled for this. And yes, look, I'm going to be the first to admit, Ronda's promos for this upcoming match, they weren't very good. They went the wrong direction at trying to more or less brand Becky, who was, of course, the first intended opponent, brand her as some type of crazy, lazy millennial, and was going after the millennial generation. I'm going to admit that. That was not good. They should have gone a different direction with that. But basically, I'm trying to think, and then what I was trying to point out is, and I'm really sorry because my memory has kind of faded as to what exactly everything I was going to talk about here that I had planned after Sunday. The point I think I was getting at here is this, to me, was the ultimate, was the ultimate, this to me, sorry, excuse me, one moment. This is going to be heavily edited for the recorded bit for sure. This, to me, became one of the ultimate examples of no one can get heel heat in WWE anymore. Because they tried to turn Becky heel, and everyone cheers her bait. They tried to turn Ronda heel. No, they tried to turn Charlotte heel now, apparently, and now everyone's loving it. Basically, that's what I got was, you can't turn heel. And now I remember exactly what else I was wanted to mention. Then came the next night on Monday Night Raw. This is a different subject altogether, where you had Dean Ambrose, who is also turning full heel, setting up a match between him and Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental title at the next pay-per-view TLC. And Ambrose cuts this promo where he sets aflame a whole bunch of merchandise belonging to, of course, their other former Shield member, Roman Reigns, who you may all be aware of had to step away from wrestling, is undergoing treatment for leukemia. And Ambrose cuts this promo. Basically, he said he felt Roman deserved to die of the cancer, or even at least deserved to get cancer. The internet did not take kindly to this promo. They basically thought it crossed the line. And that, combined with the fact that the fans hated the fact they would go to a promo like that at all for Dean Ambrose, combined with Charlotte getting cheered for transforming into a maniac on Survivor Series, that just continued to solidify further for me that you can't get real heel heat in WWE now. No matter what happens, no matter what you do, there's nothing you can do to legitimately get a heel over anymore. Because you use shady tactics in the ring, people are going to cheer you for that if you're trying to assault and just go past the supposed rules of the competition and try to intentionally hurt and beat a person to death almost. You're going to get cheered for that. You try to pull any type of heel promo, you're either going to get cheered like Becky does all the time, or you're going to get, people are going to whine that you went too far, saying something you shouldn't have said. In the case of Dean Ambrose, I don't know what a heel wrestler can do now, especially in WWE, that will actually get them the type of heat they want. Because I truly believe I hate to use the term conspiracy, but it's like the wrestling fandom, especially the online wrestling fandom, has made their decision that they're going to do whatever it takes to screw up WWE's main shows. They're not, whatever WWE wants them to do, they're intentionally going to do it, not because it makes sense for them to do it in their own minds, but just to F over Raw and SmackDown and the pay-per-views broadcasts. Now, here's the whole kicker to this. I post online, I post myself on Twitter and whatnot, Facebook and the like, this very subject. I think no heel can get over as a heel in WWE. And a few friends of mine pointed out one particular name. Tomasso Ciampa. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Who I believe is the current NXT Champion. And I've heard that name a few times. They supposedly told me this before. And you know what? Fair enough. I'm going to take up that challenge. As soon as I get the time, and I promise I will do this, one way or another, hopefully this month sometime, I am going to go back and start watching the history of Tomasso Ciampa and his time here in NXT. And I'm not just talking about watching next week's edition. I'm going to look back as to do some research as to when exactly, first when Ciampa started in NXT, when they firmly established his gimmick and whatever in this particular heel persona that people are claiming gets the right type of heel heat. I'm going to watch these matches. I'm going to watch any shows with him in it. And I'm going to see for myself. Now, I'm going to try to do this with as much of an open mind as possible. However, I will say, I may already have a slight... The one thing that I think about is, I don't think the NXT crowd has the same attitude as the WWE crowd. I think when the people behind NXT tell the fans who they're supposed to cheer for and boo for, the fans go along with it for the most part. When it comes to WWE's main shows, they don't do that. They do the exact opposite. But I will try to look at Tomasso Ciampa with as objective a viewpoint as I can. I will see what he does, both in the ring and in promos, and I will try to see if it's anything particularly different from what the heels in Raw and SmackDown do. If there's anything specifically he does that works that the heels on main WWE programming don't. I'm willing to take a look at it to be absolutely certain that I've got the correct viewpoint here. That's my promise to you. So yes, to Jared Rosenfeld and John Weber and all of the other fellow wrestling fans that I have completely alienated and pissed off with my own takes on the wrestling world, I'm going to answer your challenge. And I say that, of course, like you're probably aware that the Wrestling Roundup has more or less been dissolved. I will probably be talking more wrestling stuff here on Rowdy Live. If anyone is around when I'm doing it, like a Duke CT or Rosen or Jeff Gwinnett, any of my fellow wrestling friends, be free to call in on the Discord line, and hopefully we can have some decent conversations with that.